Chosen one, why are you still alive? No, seriously. Stop scrolling for just 1 second and ask yourself that question. Why are you still breathing when everything, and I mean everything, tried to take you out? The betrayal that should have broken you, the loss that should have buried you, the diagnosis that should have finished you, the financial collapse that should have ended your story. But here you are, still standing, still fighting, still chosen. What if I told you that every single thing that tried to destroy you was actually clearing the path for something so massive, so divinely orchestrated, that heaven itself has been holding its breath waiting for this moment? What if I told you that your name has been echoing through the halls of eternity, and something sacred has been seeking you out? You feel it, don't you? That stirring in your spirit. That knowing that this isn't just another video you stumbled across. This is a divine interruption, heaven pressing pause on your regular programming, because what I'm about to share will split your life into before and after. Before we go any further, I need you to ask yourself this. Why have you survived what should have ended you? Why are you the one still standing when others fell? Why does your story keep writing itself, even when the ink should have run dry? Because you're not just a survivor, you're an assignment. And that assignment is about to activate. And before we dive deeper into this divine revelation, thank you to every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here, your support, your time, your attention. It all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead. If your spirit already knows this message is for you, if something deep inside is screaming, yes, this is why I'm here, type 777 in the comments right now. Don't hesitate. Don't think about it. That's your agreement with heaven. That's your signal that you're ready for what's coming. Don't just watch this. Participate. Engage. Because heaven is listening. And what happens next has your name written all over it. Get ready, chosen one. Something big is happening, and it's been waiting for you. Why do you feel like you're fighting a war that nobody else can see? Why does every victory feel like it comes at the cost of something precious? Your health, your relationships, your peace of mind. And why, dear chosen one, does it feel like the harder you fight for what's right, the more isolated you become? Let me tell you something that's going to shake you to your core. You haven't been living through random hardship. You've been walking through strategic spiritual warfare, and the reason it feels so personal, so targeted, so relentless is because it is. You see, when God marks someone for greatness, the enemy marks them for destruction. When heaven whispers your name for assignment, hell whispers it for elimination. You didn't just stumble into hard times. Hard times were assigned to you because someone, somewhere in the spiritual realm, recognized the threat you represent to darkness. Think about Joseph, 17 years old, full of dreams, loved by his father. Genesis 37 tells us his own brother's own blood threw him into a pit and sold him into slavery. Why? Because his dreams were too big for their small thinking. His vision threatened their comfort zone. Sound familiar? You've been Joseph in that pit, haven't you? Betrayed by people who should have protected you, cast aside by family members who couldn't handle your light, sold out by friends who smiled to your face but whispered behind your back. But here's what they didn't tell you about Joseph's story. The pit wasn't his punishment, it was his preparation. Every betrayal, every false accusation, every night in prison was building something in him that couldn't be constructed any other way. Character, wisdom, unshakable faith. You've been carrying wounds that nobody talks about at Sunday dinner. The adult children who stopped calling, the spouse who walked away when the money got tight, the church family that forgot you existed the moment you couldn't tithe like you used to, the doctors who look at your age and assume your best days are over. They told you your best years were behind you. They were wrong. God doesn't count by birthdays, He counts by purpose, and your purpose, chosen one, is just getting started. Look at Moses. 80 years old when God called him to deliver an entire nation. 80. When the world said he was past his prime, heaven said he was right on time. Because sometimes God waits until we're old enough to know we can't do it in our own strength. Sometimes he waits until we're desperate enough to depend completely on him. You've been through more in silence than some people have endured in public. The midnight tears that nobody saw. The prayers that felt like they bounced off the ceiling. The mornings you had to force yourself out of bed because giving up felt easier than getting up. That wasn't punishment, dear one. That was preparation. Job lost everything, his children, his wealth, his health, covered in boils, sitting in ashes, scraping his skin with broken pottery. His own wife told him to curse God and die. Job 2-9. But Job understood something that his accusers didn't. He said, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust him." Job 13:15. You've been Job in the ashes, scraping away at wounds that wouldn't heal, wondering if God had forgotten your address. But every scrape, every tear, every moment of wondering why me, was forging something indestructible in your spirit. Faith that fire can't burn, hope that hell can't kill. The loneliness you felt, it wasn't abandonment, it was appointment. God has been separating you from voices that would dilute your calling. The financial struggles, they weren't punishment. They were preparation for you to understand that your provision comes from heaven, not human systems. The health battles, they weren't defeat. They were developing your testimony for someone else's breakthrough. Every single thing that tried to take you out was actually clearing the room for your rise. But here's the part that's going to revolutionize how you see your story. What if every betrayal was God's way of moving the wrong people out of position so the right people could step forward? What if every door that slammed shut was heaven's way of redirecting you toward the door he's been preparing to open? What if every loss was actually making space for something so much greater that you couldn't have received it while holding on to what you had? The enemy thought he was destroying you. But God was using every attack to develop your spiritual muscle, every trial to increase your capacity, every test to prove your resilience. You didn't just survive, you were preserved. Like wine in a wineskin, you've been aging into something more valuable, more powerful, more anointed than you've ever been. Right now, as you're listening to these words, something is shifting in the spiritual realm. The same forces that have been working against you are about to work for you. The same intensity that brought warfare is about to bring breakthrough. The same supernatural attention that targeted you for destruction is about to position you for elevation. You feel it, don't you? That stirring, that sense that something big is about to break open. That's not wishful thinking, that's prophetic recognition. Your spirit knows what your mind is still catching up to. What if the pain you've endured was never meant to destroy you but to prepare the room for your rise? If that word just pierced your spirit, if something deep inside you is shouting, "Yes, I've been through it, but I'm still here," type "I've survived" in the comments right now. You didn't just make it through by accident. You were preserved by purpose. Because what's coming next is going to require everything you've learned in the wilderness. And that wilderness season, it's about to end. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. What I'm about to tell you will shake the very foundation of how you see yourself. You've been walking around believing a lie that whispers you're ordinary, a lie that says your best days are behind you, a lie that convinced you that retirement means irrelevance. But that's not what heaven sees when it looks at you. Before you were born, before your first breath, before your first heartbreak, before your first triumph, He wrote your name on an assignment that hell itself has tried to cancel ever since. Jeremiah 1-5 declares, "Before I formed you in the womb I knew you. Before you were born I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations." You think that was just for Jeremiah? Think again. You don't just have breath in your lungs, you have destiny in your DNA. You don't just have years behind you, you have purpose still pulsing through your veins. They called you retired, God calls you refired. They said you're done, heaven says you're just getting started. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to remember. Here's what 60, 70, 80 years of life has been preparing you for. You are not a has-been. You are a chosen vessel. 1 Peter 2-9 says it plainly. But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light. Chosen, royal, holy, special possession. Does that sound like someone who's supposed to fade into the background? Does that sound like someone whose story is over? But I know what you're thinking. I've made too many mistakes. I've failed too many times. I've hurt too many people. Surely God can't use someone like me now. Let me stop you right there. Romans 8:29-30 says, For those God foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brothers and sisters. And those he predestined, he also called. Those he called, he also justified. Those he justified, he also glorified. Did you catch that? Past tense. You've already been justified. You've already been glorified. Not because of what you did right, but because of what he did right on that cross. Every single setback in your life, every disappointment, every season you thought was wasted, it wasn't random, it was preparation. God doesn't make mistakes with his chosen ones. He doesn't accidentally select the wrong people. You weren't chosen because you were perfect. You were chosen because you were willing. Because somewhere in your spirit, despite all the pain, despite all the doubt, despite all the years, there's still a flame burning that says, I believe there's more. And you're absolutely right. You see, the enemy has been working overtime to convince you that your season of impact is over. He's whispered lies in your ear about being too old, too tired, too broken. He's tried to make you believe that your best contributions were decades ago. But what he didn't count on was this. God's assignments don't come with expiration dates. Moses was 80 when God called him to lead Israel out of Egypt. Abraham was 100 when Isaac was born. Anna was 84 when she prophesied over baby Jesus in the temple. God specializes in using people that the world has written off. You weren't late, you were hidden. Hidden like a secret weapon that God has been preparing for such a time as this. But now, in this hour, in this season, heaven is unveiling what hell tried to bury. That wisdom you've gained through decades of living, that's not just experience, that's spiritual ammunition. Those scars you carry, they're not signs of defeat, they're proof of resilience. That peace you found after years of struggle, that's not retirement, that's refinement. The world looks at your age and sees decline. God looks at your age and sees maturity. The world sees limitations. God sees a person who's been tested by fire and came out pure gold. The world sees an ending. God sees a new beginning. You've survived everything that was meant to destroy you. The loss that should have broken you. The betrayal that should have made you bitter. The sickness that should have taken you out. The financial struggles that should have left you hopeless. But you're still here, still standing, still believing. Do you think that's coincidence? Do you think you've just been lucky? No, chosen one. You've been protected. You've been preserved. You've been prepared for this very moment, when heaven would call your name again and say, now is your time. The assignment on your life hasn't expired. It's been incubating. It's been waiting for you to realize that your wrinkles are not signs of weakness, they're marks of warfare survived. Your gray hair is not a symbol of endingits, a crown of honor earned through years of faithfulness. They tried to put you out to pasture, but God is calling you back into purpose. They tried to silence your voice, but God is amplifying your authority. They tried to make you invisible, but God is making you undeniable. If you know you've been marked for more, if something deep in your spirit is stirring right now, if you can feel destiny calling your name, say it with me. I am chosen. I am called. I am not done. Because the truth is, chosen one, you're not just getting older. You're getting closer to the moment when everything you've been through will finally make sense. Listen to me very carefully, because what I'm about to tell you is going to shatter every lie the enemy has whispered in your ear about being too late, too old, too tired to step into your calling. You've been sitting there, haven't you? Watching younger generations step into their purpose while you wonder if your time has passed. You've been listening to the voice that says, if it was going to happen, it would have happened by now. You've been believing the biggest deception the devil ever sold to God's people, that your greatest days are behind you. But what if I told you that everything you just heard is a lie straight from the pit of hell? What if I told you that you were never the extra in someone else's story? You were never the background character waiting for someone else to take center stage. You were the missing chapter in your generation's deliverance. The final piece that heaven has been saving for such a time as this. Think about this. Moses was 80 years old when God called him to the burning bush. 80. In today's world, that's retirement age. That's when society says you should be playing with grandchildren and taking afternoon naps. But God looked at Moses and said, now you're ready. Now you have the wisdom, the patience, the surrender I need for the greatest assignment of your lifetime. Caleb was 85 when he demanded his mountain. 85. He looked at Joshua and said, give me this hill country that the Lord promised me. Joshua 14:12. While other men his age were settling into comfort, Caleb was claiming territory. While others were talking about their glory days, Caleb was creating new ones. And Anna the prophetess? She waited decades in the temple, serving, praying, believing. Luke 2:36 tells us she was advanced in years when she finally saw the Christ child. But her waiting wasn't wasted time. It was preparation time. Every prayer, every fast, every lonely night in that temple was building her spiritual authority for the moment when she would recognize the Messiah and prophesy over his destiny. You see, God doesn't operate on human timelines. While the world measures success by how early you start, heaven measures impact by how surrendered you become. And surrender, real surrender, that comes with age, it comes with scars. It comes with the wisdom that only walking through valleys can produce. You've been through things that broke you open, losses that should have ended you, disappointments that crushed dreams you thought were from God, betrayals that made you question everything you believed about people, about life, about faith itself. But what you called setbacks, God called setups. What you called delays, heaven called preparation. Because God saves his strongest assignments for his most surrendered vessels. Every gray hair on your head represents a battle won. Every line on your face tells a story of resilience. Every ache in your body speaks of a spirit that refused to quit when quitting would have been easier. You didn't just survive the storms of life. You were forged in them, refined by them, prepared through them for this very moment. The enemy wanted those trials to disqualify you, but God used them to qualify you. The pain that was meant to silence your voice actually gave it depth. The isolation that was meant to make you irrelevant actually made you dependent on the only voice that matters. The waiting that felt like punishment was actually positioning. Right now, there's a stirring in your spirit. You feel it, don't you? That restlessness that says there's more, that knowing that your story isn't over, that sense that all these years of preparation were leading to something bigger than you've ever imagined. You're not behind schedule. You're right on time. Divine time. What took 40 years to form, God can release in 40 days. This is that kind of moment. This is that kind of season. The acceleration that's coming isn't gradual. It's supernatural. It's the kind of breakthrough that makes up for lost time, that restores the years the locusts have eaten, that turns your mourning into dancing in ways that defy natural explanation. Joel 2:25 promises, I will restore to you the years that the swarming locust has eaten, not replace them, restore them. Give you back more than what was taken. Multiply the impact of your remaining years beyond anything your younger years could have produced. You're standing at your Red Sea moment. Behind you is a lifetime of preparation. In front of you is the promised land of purpose. And God is saying to you what he said to Moses. Lift up your rod, stretch out your hand, Watch me make a way where there seems to be no way. The next chapter of your life isn't going to be a gentle epilogue. It's going to be your strongest chapter, the most impactful, the most anointed. Because everything you've learned, everything you've endured, everything you've surrendered is about to be released in a demonstration of God's power that will leave your family, your community, your generation in awe of what the Most High can do through a surrendered life. Say it with me. My next chapter will be my strongest one. Don't just think it, speak it, write it in the comments, declare it aloud. Because your voice carries authority, your words carry weight, and your declaration is about to activate something that's been dormant too long. But here's the question that will determine everything. Are you ready to stop making excuses and start making history? You want to know why your life felt like a battlefield? Why every step forward came with 10 steps of resistance? Why doors slammed shut just as your hand touched the handle? It wasn't bad luck, chosen one. It was strategic warfare. Hell saw your glow before you did. Let me tell you something that's going to shake you to your core. The enemy didn't target you because you were weak. He targeted you because you were dangerous. Dangerous to his kingdom. Dangerous to his lies. Dangerous to the systems built on keeping God's people small, silent, and spiritually starved. Think about it. When did the attacks intensify? Right before your breakthrough. When did the betrayals cut deepest? Right before your promotion. When did the financial storms hit hardest? Right before your provision was about to overflow. The enemy operates on one principle: strike before they realize their power. You remember Job, don't you? God said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him." Job 1-8. Notice what happened next. The enemy didn't go after the lukewarm believers. He went after the one God bragged about. He went after the chosen one. That's you. That's why your story reads like a war journal instead of a fairy tale. The enemy sent shame first. Remember those whispers in your mind? You're not qualified. You're not educated enough. You're too old. You're too damaged. Look at your past. Look at your mistakes. That wasn't your conscience speaking, beloved. That was hell's first weapon, shame. Because shame makes warriors retreat before the battle even begins. Then came delay. Every time you stepped toward your destiny, something happened. The funding dried up. The partner backed out. The health crisis hit. The family emergency struck. You started thinking, maybe God doesn't want this for me. But here's the truth. God's timing is perfect, but the enemy's timing is calculated. He knows that delay breeds doubt, and doubt breeds defeat. Poverty was next. Not just financial poverty, but poverty of spirit, poverty of relationships, poverty of opportunities. They dried up your resources, isolated you from support, made you question if you were really hearing from God. Because when you're struggling to survive, you don't have energy to thrive. But the deepest cut was self-doubt. "Oh, this was masterful," the enemy whispered. "If God really chose you, why is this so hard? If you're really anointed, why are you struggling? If you're really called, why does everyone seem to be against you?" Here's what hell didn't tell you. Jesus himself was tempted for 40 days in the wilderness immediately after God declared, "This is my beloved Son," Matthew 3:17, then Matthew 4:1. The greater the calling, the greater the opposition, the bigger the assignment, the fiercer the attack. You weren't just surviving fire, chosen one. You became fireproof. Every scheme they threw at you, every trap they set, every storm they sent, it didn't destroy you, it developed you. That shame they used as a weapon, you turned it into humility. That delay they meant for discouragement, you used it for preparation. That poverty they intended for your defeat, you transformed it into dependency on God's provision. The enemy's greatest mistake was underestimating the God who lives inside you. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. 1 John 4:4. Every attack was supposed to end your story. Instead, it became another chapter of your testimony. But here's where it gets beautiful. Here's where justice becomes poetry. The same mouths that whispered against you in dark corners will soon whisper your name in awe. The same hands that tried to push you down will soon reach up toward the light you carry. The same systems that rejected you will soon need what you've become. Because you didn't just survive the strategy, you exposed it. Every lie they told about you is crumbling under the weight of your elevation. Every trap they set is now evidence of their desperation. Every attack they launched is now proof of your importance. The tables are turning, and the sound is thunderous. You know what terrifies the enemy most? Not your anger, not your retaliation. What terrifies him is your peace, your unshakable confidence, your calm certainty that no weapon formed against you can prosper. Isaiah 54:17. That's why he's scrambling now. That's why the attacks feel more desperate, more random, because he knows his time is up. He knows the very person he tried to destroy is about to become the weapon of his own destruction. The enemy failed, and deep in your spirit, you know it. But this isn't just about you anymore. This is about everyone watching your story unfold, wondering if God still fights for his people. Your victory isn't just personal, it's prophetic. Listen to me very carefully, chosen one. What you've been calling delays were never delays at all. They were divine positioning. Every closed door, every not yet, every moment you felt forgotten, God was moving pieces on a chessboard you couldn't see. You've been standing at the train station of your destiny for what feels like forever, haven't you? Checking your watch, looking down empty tracks, wondering if your breakthrough got lost in transit. The departure board of your life has been flashing, delayed for so long that you started believing maybe your train wasn't coming at all. But I need you to hear the sound that's rumbling in the distance right now. That's not thunder, that's not your imagination. That's the sound of divine timing finally arriving at your station. The train that was delayed is now pulling in, and it's carrying everything with your name on it. You see, there's something most people don't understand about God's timing. When he delays something in your life, he's not withholding from you. He's preparing you for the weight of what's coming. Because what God has attached to your name isn't just Bidget so massive that if it had arrived when you first prayed for it, it would have crushed you. Think about this. Every giant that David faced before Goliath was training. Every rejection that Moses endured in Pharaoh's court was preparation. Every year that Abraham waited for Isaac was divine positioning. They thought they were in delay. They were actually in development. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. That word plans in Hebrew, it's makasheba. It means calculated thoughts, deliberate purposes. God hasn't been playing guessing games with your life. Every season, every struggle, every setback has been calculated preparation for this very moment you're living in right now. But here's where it gets urgent, and I need you to really hear me on this. There's a shift happening in the spiritual realm that most people are completely missing. We're not just in a new season, we're in a new era. The old rules of wait your turn and pay your dues just got rewritten by heaven itself. The spiritual climate has changed. The atmosphere has shifted. And if you're sensitive to the Spirit, you can feel it. You've been feeling it for weeks now, haven't you? That restlessness, that stirring, that sense that something is about to break open. You are no longer in delay. You are in divine positioning. And this positioning isn't random. God didn't just arbitrarily decide that now is your time. No, you've been processed. You've been refined. You've been tested until every impurity that could contaminate your blessing has been burned away. You've proven that you won't compromise your character for a shortcut. You've demonstrated that you'll serve in the basement with the same integrity you'll carry on the platform. That's why this shift is so powerful. This isn't just about getting what you want. This is about becoming who you were always meant to be and stepping into an assignment that's been waiting for you since before you were born. But here's what's going to shock you. The very thing that tried to destroy you is about to become the foundation of your greatest testimony. The betrayal that broke your heart is about to become the breakthrough that breaks generational curses. The loss that left you empty is about to become the space where God pours in something you never could have imagined. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. Romans 8:28. All things, not some things, not the good things, all things. Even the things that felt like hell on earth were actually heaven preparing earth for your arrival. You've been asking God, when is my time? But God has been asking you, are you ready for your time? And something tells me, something deep in your spirit confirms that your answer is finally, definitively, yes. The shift is here. The positioning is complete. The train is at your platform. But here's the critical part. You have to get on. You have to stop rehearsing your past and start receiving your future. You have to stop explaining why you're not ready and start declaring that you are. If you feel this shift in your spirit right now, if every word I'm speaking is resonating in your soul like a tuning fork type, I receive the shift in the comments and share this with someone who needs to hear it, because this isn't just about you anymore. You're about to become the answered prayer for someone else who's been waiting for proof that God still keeps His promises. The question is, are you ready to step into everything that's been waiting for you to be ready for it? If you're still watching, it's not curiosity, it's calling. You stayed because heaven needed a witness, and now the mantle is falling. You think you clicked on this video by accident. There are no accidents in the kingdom of God. Every second you've remained here, every word that's resonated in your spirit, every tear that's welled up in your eyes, that's not coincidence. That's commissioning. You've been waiting at the edge of the Jordan. This is the moment the river parts. Let me ask you something that's going to shake you to your core. What if every rejection you faced was actually God's protection? What if every door that slammed shut was heaven redirecting you towards something so much greater that you couldn't even comprehend it at the time? What if the very people who betrayed you, who counted you out, who whispered behind your back, what if they were unknowingly preparing you for this exact moment? Because here's what they didn't understand about you, chosen one. You were never meant to fit into their small boxes. You were forged in fire for a purpose so massive that ordinary minds couldn't contain it. Look at Joseph, sold into slavery by his own brothers, falsely accused, thrown into prison. For 13 years, 13 long years, it looked like God had forgotten His promise. But Genesis 41:14 tells us, so Pharaoh sent for Joseph, and he was quickly brought from the dungeon. Quickly. In one day, Joseph went from prisoner to prime minister, from forgotten to favored, from the pit to the palace. Your quickening is coming. You see, what looked like your downfall was actually your setup. Every betrayal was building your character. Every rejection was refining your calling. Every lonely night you cried out to God asking, why me? Why this? Why now? Those weren't complaints. Those were labor pains. You were birthing your destiny. But here's where it gets dangerous for the enemy. You didn't just survive. You didn't just endure. You transformed. And transformation in the hands of the Almighty becomes a weapon that can shift entire atmospheres, entire communities, entire generations. You're not watching this. You're witnessing this. Say it with me. I receive the mantle. Because that's what's happening right now. God is removing the training wheels. He's taking off the spiritual bubble wrap. The season of preparation is over. The season of activation has begun. Do you feel that weight settling on your shoulders? That's not burden, that's burden bearing. That's the mantle of someone who's been entrusted with divine assignment. Moses felt it at the burning bush. Esther felt it in the palace. David felt it when Samuel poured that oil over his head. And you're feeling it right now because God is saying, it's time. Time for what? Time to stop hiding behind your past mistakes. Time to stop shrinking back because of what people might say. Time to stop playing small because you're afraid of standing out. Time to walk into rooms and absolutely know that you belong there because heaven put you there. 1 Samuel 16:7 says, "The Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." God saw your heart when it was broken. He saw your heart when it was bitter. He saw your heart when it was barely beating. And he said, this heart that's been shattered and rebuilt, this is the heart that can carry my glory. Your scars aren't your shame, they're your credentials. Your pain isn't your prison, it's your pulpit. Your story isn't your setback, it's your setup for someone else's breakthrough. But let me tell you something that's going to challenge everything you think you know about yourself. You were never meant to be comfortable. Comfort is the enemy of calling. Ease is the assassin of anointing. God didn't choose you to live a quiet, predictable life. He chose you to be a disruptor, a game changer, a pattern breaker. That's why you've never fit in anywhere. That's why small talk makes your spirit itch. That's why you see things others miss, feel things others ignore, and know things you were never taught. You're not weird, you're wired differently because you were created for something different. Jeremiah 1:5 declares, "Before I formed you in the womb I knew you. Before you were born I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations." Before your first breath, before your first heartbeat, before your mother even knew you existed, God had already written your assignment. Every detail of your life, even the painful parts, especially the painful parts, were orchestrated to prepare you for this commission. The commission to speak life into dead situations. The commission to bring hope to the hopeless. The commission to stand in the gap for those who can't stand for themselves. The commission to be a voice for the voiceless and a light in the darkness. This isn't about preaching from a pulpit. This is about living as a testament to God's goodness in your everyday life, in your workplace, in your neighborhood, in your family, in every conversation, every interaction, every moment you breathe. You carry the authority of someone who's been through hell and came out holding heaven's hand. They're watching you now. Not to see you fail, they already tried that and it didn't work. They're watching to see what God does with someone who refuses to quit. They're watching to witness what happens when heaven backs someone who backs heaven. Type, "I'm ready for what's next" if you feel this word placing weight on your spirit. Type it if you're tired of playing small. Type it if you're ready to step into the fullness of who God created you to be. Because what's coming next isn't just about you anymore. It's about everyone whose life you're going to touch. It's about the ripple effect of one person saying yes to their divine assignment. It's about the kingdom advancing because you finally understood that you weren't chosen despite your story, you were chosen because of it. The commission is yours. The question is, are you ready to carry it? Let me tell you something that's going to shake you to your core. The reason your life has felt like a battlefield isn't because you're cursed. It's because you're chosen. And the moment heaven whispers your name, hell scrambles every demon it can find. You've been wondering why everything seems harder for you, haven't you? Why other people seem to glide through life while you're constantly fighting invisible wars. Why your relationships implode without warning. Why your health gets attacked. Why your finances get sabotaged just when breakthrough seems close. Why your peace gets shattered right when you finally find it. Let me break this down for you, chosen one. This isn't coincidence. This is spiritual warfare. Look at Jesus in Luke chapter 4. The moment the Father declared from heaven, "This is my beloved Son," what happened next? The Spirit led him straight into the wilderness where Satan himself showed up for 40 days of intense warfare. Not after Jesus failed. Not after he messed up. Right after his divine commissioning. The devil didn't waste time with small demons. He showed up personally. Why? Because he knew what heaven had just activated. That's your story right now. The moment you started waking up to your true identity, the moment you stopped settling for mediocrity, the moment you began to carry yourself like royalty instead of a refugee, that's when hell's attention turned toward you. They called you difficult. You weren't difficult. You were discerning. They called you intense. You weren't intense. You were anointed. They said you were too much. No, you were exactly enough to threaten every counterfeit system around you. Listen to me carefully. That breakdown you almost had last month, that wasn't you falling apart. That was spiritual pressure trying to crush what God was building inside you. That sudden wave of depression that hit you out of nowhere, that wasn't mental illness. That was demonic oppression, trying to silence the voice God gave you. You weren't attacked because you were weak. You were attacked because you finally woke up. The enemy doesn't waste ammunition on people who pose no threat. He doesn't send his best weapons against people living in spiritual mediocrity. But when someone starts walking in their true identity, when someone begins to carry the frequency of heaven on earth, that's when hell mobilizes. Think about it. When did the attacks intensify? Right after you started praying more seriously. Right after you began to separate yourself from toxic people. Right after you started believing God actually had a plan for your life. Right after you stopped apologizing for being different. The devil isn't afraid of church attendance. He's terrified of awakened saints. He's not worried about people who sing hymns on Sunday and live defeated Monday through Saturday. He's panicked by believers who actually believe they're more than conquerors. Here's what hell knows that you're just figuring out. You carry something that can shift entire atmospheres. Your prayers don't just ask for things, they command demons to flee. Your presence doesn't just occupy space, it displaces darkness. Your voice doesn't just speak words, it releases divine decrees that change the spiritual climate. That's why they tried to silence you so aggressively. That's why the warfare got so intense. That's why everything seemed to fall apart right when you started rising up. But here's the part that's going to blow your mind. In Luke 4:14, after Jesus survived the wilderness warfare, the Bible says he returned to Galilee in the power of the Spirit, not weakened by the battle, empowered by surviving it. Every spiritual attack you've endured wasn't meant to destroy you, it was meant to develop you. Every demon that came against you wasn't proof that you were failing. It was proof that you were advancing. The proof that you're dangerous to hell is how fast hell tried to silence you. When the enemy throws everything he's got at you, that's not a sign you're on the wrong path. That's confirmation you're on the right one. When spiritual warfare intensifies around your life, that's not God abandoning you. That's heaven preparing you for the next level of your assignment. You think you've been barely surviving these past months, but I'm telling you, you've been in training, warrior training, champion training, the kind of preparation that only comes through fire. And now I need you to understand something that will change everything. The same spiritual authority that the enemy has been trying to destroy is the same authority God is about to activate. Every prayer you prayed in desperation is about to be answered in demonstration. Every tear you cried in secret is about to become a testimony in public. Every battle you fought alone is about to become a victory everyone can see. The warfare was preparation. The isolation was incubation. The testing was promotion in disguise. But here's what happens next. You stop being the victim of spiritual warfare and you become the victor. You stop running from the battle and you start winning it. You stop asking God why this is happening to you and you start asking Him how to use what He's built inside you. If you're feeling the weight of warfare right now, if everything I'm saying is hitting your spirit like lightning, type "I'm still standing" in the comments, because you didn't survive by accident. You survived because heaven needs what you carry. And what you carry is about to be unleashed. You know what they never tell you about being chosen? The hiding comes before the revealing. The burial comes before the resurrection. The silence comes before the roar. For months, maybe years, you've felt like you've been living underground, like a seed buried so deep in the darkness that you started questioning if you were meant to grow at all. You've watched others get promoted, get recognized, get their breakthrough, while you sat in what felt like spiritual solitary confinement. But what if I told you that every single day you spent in that dark place wasn't punishment, it was preparation? What if I told you that God wasn't ignoring you, He was incubating you? Look at Joseph, 17 years old when his brothers threw him in a pit, sold into slavery, falsely accused, thrown into prison. For 13 years, Joseph sat in places where his dreams seemed impossible. 13 years of wondering if God had forgotten his name. 13 years of watching the sun rise and set on what felt like a wasted life. But then came the day. Genesis 41:14 says, "So Pharaoh sent for Joseph, and he was quickly brought from the dungeon. In one moment-tone divine moment, Joseph went from the pit to the palace, from forgotten prisoner to the second most powerful man in Egypt." The same God who remembered Joseph has been preparing a room for you. You've been underground like a seed, but the soil is breaking, and you're about to sprout in places you didn't even apply for. The doors won't just open, they'll recognize you on arrival. David spent years in caves while Saul sat on his throne. Years of running, hiding, surviving on scraps and the promises of God. But 1 Samuel 16:1 tells us something powerful. The Lord said to Samuel, "How long will you mourn for Saul, since I have rejected him as king over Israel? Fill your horn with oil and be on your way. I am sending you to Jesse of Bethlehem. I have chosen one of his sons to be king." God had already chosen David before David even knew he was chosen. The crown was waiting before the cave ever became home. Here's what's happening right now in your life. You are about to walk into a room that was built for you before your parents even met. You're about to step into opportunities that have your spiritual DNA embedded in them. You're about to discover that every closed door wasn't rejection, it was redirection towards something bigger than you ever imagined. But here's the part that's going to shock you. You're not about to be discovered. You're about to be remembered by heaven. See, your name was never erased from God's plans. It was never crossed out of his book. While you thought you were being forgotten, heaven was saying, "Not yet, they're not ready, the timing isn't right." But when it is, when the moment comes, watch how fast everything changes. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven." Your season of hiding is ending. Your season of revealing is beginning. The same people who overlooked you are about to be shocked by your sudden emergence. The same voices that whispered you'd never make it are about to watch you walk into rooms they can't even imagine entering. The same systems that rejected you are about to need what you carry. And here's the most powerful part: the same name they slandered will be the name God uses to shift the atmosphere. Think about it. How many times have you felt like you were fighting for recognition that never came? How many applications got ignored? How many times did you walk into rooms where you felt invisible? How many conversations happened about your future without you in them? But God has been positioning you in the shadows for a reason. He's been developing your character in private so he can trust you with influence in public. He's been strengthening your roots in the dark so when you finally break through the surface, nothing can uproot you. Your hiding wasn't punishment. It was protection. God was shielding you from opportunities that would have destroyed you and preparing you for assignments that will define you. The delay wasn't denial. It was divine timing. Every no you received was God's way of saying, "I have something better." Every door that closed was heaven's way of saying, "Not this one, that one." You've been in the wilderness, but Moses spent 40 years there before he led a nation to freedom. You've been in the cave, but David wrote his most powerful psalms in hiding. You've been in the fire, but that's where gold gets refined. Your time of unveiling is here. The curtain is about to rise on the next act of your life, and when it does, the world won't just see you, they'll see the God who preserved you. But here's what you need to understand. This unveiling isn't just about you getting what you've waited for, it's about you becoming who you were always meant to be. It's about stepping into an assignment so specific, so divinely crafted, that only you can fulfill it. The room is waiting, the stage is set, the door is about to open. And when you walk through it, every step you take will echo with the authority of someone who has been prepared in the secret place. So I'm asking you right now, were you ready to step out of the shadows and into your purpose? Are you ready to walk into rooms that were designed with your name on them? If you feel like your life has been waiting on this word, if something in your spirit is stirring right now, type, "I've been hidden but I'm ready." Because what's about to happen next will prove that your delay was never about being forgotten. It was about being positioned for something unstoppable. They counted you out, didn't they? Wrote you off like yesterday's newspaper, said you were finished, washed up, past your expiration date. They looked at your grey hair and whispered, "Their time is over." They saw your wrinkles and decided your wisdom was worthless. They measured your worth by your age instead of your anointing. But here's what they didn't know. Here's what they couldn't see. Every insult was actually an investment. Every rejection was positioning you for resurrection. Every time they tried to bury you, they were planting you deeper into your purpose. You see, there's something the enemy never understands about God's chosen ones. We don't diminish with age. We don't fade with time. We don't expire when society says we should. We ripen. We mature. We become dangerous in our wisdom. Look at Job. This man lost everything. His children, his wealth, his health, his reputation. His own wife told him to curse God and die. His friends became his accusers. For months he sat in ashes, scraping his sores with broken pottery, wondering if God had forgotten his name. But here's what Job didn't know while he was suffering. God was setting up the greatest comeback in biblical history. Job 42:10 says, "After Job had prayed for his friends, the Lord restored his fortunes and gave him twice as much as he had before." Twice as much. Not just restoration, multiplication. And you, dear chosen one, you've been sitting in your own ashes long enough. You've scraped your own wounds. You've questioned your own worth. You've wondered if God remembers your address. But I'm here to tell you something that's going to shake the very foundations of your doubt. Your season of loss is ending. Your season of multiplication is beginning. They threw dirt on you, but they didn't know you were a seed. Every shovel full of shame they dumped on your name, every handful of humiliation they scattered over your reputation, every clod of contempt they cast upon your character, it wasn't burial. It was planting. And seeds don't just survive in the dark. They transform in it. They change in it. They prepare in it. And when they break through that soil, they don't come back as they were. They come back as something greater. You're not the same person who went into that dark season. You're not the same soul who endured that betrayal. You're not the same spirit who survived that abandonment. You've been refined by fire. You've been strengthened by struggle. You've been prepared by pain. The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. Psalm 118:22. They pushed you aside because they thought you were unusable. They discarded you because they couldn't see your value. They threw you away because they didn't understand your purpose. But God had a different blueprint. While they were building with inferior materials, God was crafting you into the foundation stone. The very piece they said was worthless has become the most important part of the structure. And here's what's happening right now, in this very moment. The builders are looking at their crumbling structures. The foundations they laid without you are failing. The walls they built in your absence are falling. And they're realizing they need the very stone they rejected. They need your wisdom. They need your experience. They need your strength. They need what only a life tested by fire can produce. But you're not going back as the rejected stone. You're returning as the cornerstone. You're not going back broken. You're going back whole. You're not going back begging. You're going back blessed. They said you're past your prime. But the Bible says something different. Joel 2:25 declares, "I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten." Not just restore, not just replace. Restore with interest. Restore with multiplication. Restore with vindication. Your latter days will be greater than your former days. Your sunset years will outshine your sunrise years. Your final chapters will be your finest chapters. Because God doesn't waste pain. He doesn't squander suffering. He doesn't throw away the tested. He promotes them. He positions them. He puts them in places where their scars become their qualifications. The same hands that wounded you are about to write you checks. The same mouths that mocked you are about to speak your praise. The same systems that rejected you are about to recruit you. Restoration, reversal, release. Say it with me. Restoration, reversal, release. This isn't just about getting back what you lost. This is about getting back more than you ever had. This isn't just about healing from what hurt you. This is about becoming stronger than you've ever been. This isn't just about surviving what tried to destroy you. This is about thriving in ways that will make your enemies wonder if they're looking at the same person. You didn't just survive the theft. You're about to own the land they tried to take you out of. You didn't just endure the attack. You're about to inherit the territory they fought to keep from you. You didn't just overcome the opposition. You're about to operate in the very space they said you'd never see again. The tables aren't just turning. They're flipping. The script isn't just changing. It's being rewritten. The game isn't just shifting. It's starting over with you as the victor instead of the victim. Every gray hair on your head is a trophy of survival. Every line on your face is a medal of endurance. Every scar on your soul is a seal of authenticity that cannot be faked, cannot be bought, cannot be stolen. If you're ready for restoration, type, "The tables are turning." Because they are. And you're about to see just how powerfully God can flip a story when He decides it's time for His chosen ones to shine. Listen to me, chosen one. I need you to hear something that's going to shake the very foundation of every lie you've been told about your age, your relevance, your purpose. They looked at your grey hair and whispered expired. They saw your slower steps and declared you finished. They counted your wrinkles and assumed your story was over. But here's what they missed. Heaven wasn't counting your wrinkles. Heaven was counting your revelations. Every line on your face is a testimony. Every ache in your bones is evidence of battles won. Every moment they said you were too old, too slow, too late, God was preparing you for the most significant chapter of your entire existence. You think Moses felt washed up at 80. You think he looked in that ancient mirror and said, "Well, Lord, I guess my best days are behind me." That's when God showed up at the burning bush and said, "Now we're ready to begin." Exodus 3:10, "So now, go. I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people out of Egypt." 80 years old. That's when his real assignment started. You don't walk with speed anymore. You walk with something infinitely more powerful. You walk with authority. You walk with the weight of tested faith. You walk with the confidence of someone who's been through the fire and didn't just survive you, learned how to use the flames. Anna the prophetess was 84 when she encountered the infant Jesus in the temple. Luke 2:36 tells us she had been a widow for most of her life, spending decades in prayer and fasting. But at 84, when the world would have written her off as irrelevant, she became the first person to publicly proclaim the Messiah. Her age wasn't her disqualification, it was her credential. Because here's what the enemy fears most about you. It's not your youth. He already survived that. It's not your energy that fluctuates. What terrifies him is your endurance, your refusal to quit, your stubborn faith that's been tested by decades of disappointments and still burns bright. The devil didn't fear your youth. He feared your endurance. He feared the moment you'd realize that every season of stripping, every year of loss, every decade of feeling invisible was actually God removing everything that wasn't essential, everything that wasn't eternal, everything that couldn't survive the assignment He's been preparing you for. You are not a relic of the past. You are the root system of what's coming next. You're not the ending. You're the foundation. Deep roots that have weathered every storm, every drought, every season of darkness. And now, in this hour, God is about to spring something from those roots that will astonish a generation that thought they could bypass your wisdom. Look at Caleb, 85 years old, when he said to Joshua, "Give me this mountain." Joshua 14:12, "Now give me this hill country that the Lord promised me that day." Not a retirement home. Not a quiet corner to fade away. A mountain. a challenge, a conquest. At 85, he was ready for war. But here's what breaks my heart. Some of you have internalized their lies. You've believed the whispers that your time is over. You've accepted the narrative that your best contributions are in the rearview mirror. You've settled into a shrinking life because the world convinced you that aging means diminishing. Stop it. Stop right now. God doesn't operate on expiration dates. His gifts and calling are irrevocable. Romans 11:29. That means the fire he placed in you at 20 is still burning at 70. The purpose he downloaded into your spirit decades ago is still active, still relevant, still needed. The world needs your tested faith more than it needs their untested enthusiasm. The world needs your battle-scarred wisdom more than their theory-based knowledge. The world needs your Holy Ghost boldness that's been refined by decades of relationship with the Almighty. You've survived recessions, wars, cultural shifts, personal tragedies, family betrayals, health scares, and loss that would have destroyed weaker souls. You're still here. You're still believing. You're still standing. That's not accident. That's preparation. God has been preparing you for this moment when the world is desperate for authenticity, starving for genuine spiritual authority, crying out for voices that carry the weight of tested truth. Your voice, your wisdom, your fire. The church needs you to stop whispering and start declaring. The community needs you to stop hiding and start leading. This generation needs you to stop apologizing for your age and start operating in the authority that only comes through decades of walking with God. You think David wrote Psalm 23 as a young shepherd boy. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. That came from an old king who had walked through every valley, faced every enemy, lost everything and found it again in God. Your second wind isn't just coming. It's here. It's been building in your spirit while you thought you were winding down. It's been gathering strength in the secret place while the world counted you out. This isn't about proving anyone wrong. This is about proving God right. Right about his timing. Right about his choices. Right about you. The devil thought, if he could just make you feel irrelevant long enough, you'd fold. If he could convince you that your season was over, you'd sit down. If he could make you believe that younger automatically means better, you'd step aside. But you didn't. You're still here, still believing, still carrying fire. And now God is about to show this generation what happens when someone who's been tested by time steps into their full authority. When someone who's survived everything the enemy could throw at them finally says, "My story isn't finished." If you know in your spirit that your greatest chapter is still being written, if you feel that fire stirring again, if something deep inside is saying, "This is my time," type in the comments right now. My second wind is here. Don't hesitate. Don't question it. Declare it. Because the enemy has been waiting for you to give up, but you're about to show him what endurance produces. Listen to me, chosen one. What you've just heard wasn't just information. It was activation. And right now, in this very moment, something is shifting in the spiritual realm. I can feel it. You can feel it. The atmosphere around you is charged with divine electricity because heaven has been waiting for this exact moment to release what's been held back. For too long, you've been sitting in the waiting room of your own destiny. For too long, you've been told to be patient while your calling burned like fire in your bones. For too long, you've watched others step into opportunities that had your fingerprints on them. But that season is over. That chapter is closed. What's about to happen next will leave you breathless. You see, there's something the enemy never wanted you to understand. Every delay you've experienced, every door that slammed shut, every person who walked away, none of it was rejection. It was divine protection. God was holding you back not to punish you, but to position you. Because what's coming is so massive, so overwhelming, so beyond anything you've ever imagined, that you needed to be forged in the fire first. Look at Moses, 40 years in the wilderness before he could lead Israel out of Egypt. 40 years of waiting, wondering, watching sheep instead of leading people. But Exodus 7:7 tells us Moses was 80 years old when he finally stood before Pharaoh. 80. By the world's standards, he was past his prime. But by God's standards, he was perfectly seasoned. That's you right now. Perfectly seasoned, divinely positioned, spiritually loaded and ready to fire. But here's what's going to separate you from everyone else watching this message. Most people will nod their heads, feel inspired for about 30 minutes, and then go back to their regular programming. But you're not most people, you're chosen. And chosen ones don't just receive revelation, they act on it. The question isn't whether God is ready to move in your life. The question is whether you're ready to move with God. Are you ready to step out of the boat like Peter? Are you ready to leave the fishing nets like the disciples? Are you ready to trust the process even when you can't see the full picture? Because what I'm about to pray over you isn't just words. It's a prophetic commissioning. It's heaven's official authorization for you to step into the assignment you were born to carry. And once this prayer is prayed, once this oil is poured, once this mantle is placed on your shoulders, there's no going back to small thinking, small living, or small impact. So, if you're ready, if you're truly ready to stop being a spectator in your own life and start being the main character God called you to be, then receive what I'm about to release over you. Father, for every one of your chosen who sat in the dark, waiting for their moment, wondering if they heard you correctly, questioning if they were really called right now, let the fire of clarity fall. Let every shadow of doubt burn away. Let every whisper of insecurity be silenced by your thunderous approval. Loose the angels assigned to their next chapter, the ones who've been waiting in the wings, watching, preparing, anticipating this very moment. Send them forth now to prepare the way, to open doors, to move mountains, to shift circumstances. Let every spiritual force that's been held in reserve be released right now. I seal the oil that was poured over their life before birth. The anointing that's been dormant, waiting for the right season, the right moment, the right level of surrender. Let it flow now like rivers of living water. Let it saturate every dream, every vision, every holy ambition that's been buried under years of disappointment. For every tear they've cried in secret, turn it into testimonies that will shake nations. For every prayer they've prayed in desperation, let the answers come flooding in like a tsunami of favor. For every time they almost gave up, but chose to hold on, let the reward be double, triple, immeasurable. I declare over them right now, no more delay. The waiting is over, no more denial. The doubt is dead, no more defeat. Victory is their portion. Just divine release, just supernatural acceleration, just heaven on earth manifesting through their obedience. You don't need a platform to start. You don't need a title to begin. You don't need anyone's permission to walk in what God has already authorized. You don't need a stage, chosen one. You are the movement. Now go carry it. The fire that's burning in your chest right now, that's not emotion, that's confirmation. That's stirring in your spirit. That's not wishful thinking. That's heaven saying yes to what you've always known but were afraid to believe. Your assignment starts the moment this video ends. Your calling activates when you close this browser. Your destiny begins when you take the first step, even if you can't see the whole staircase. If this message changed you, if something inside you just woke up, if you feel like you've been struck by lightning, don't. Just keep it to yourself. Sow it. Share it. Let someone else feel what you just felt. Let another chosen one find their way to this divine interruption. Because the movement doesn't stop with you, it flows through you. And somewhere out there, someone is waiting to hear their name called too. The summoning is complete. The commissioning is finished. Now go, chosen one. Go and set the world on fire. Chosen one. As we come to the end of this divine encounter, I need you to remember something that will anchor your soul in the storms ahead. You are not an accident. You are not a mistake. You are not too late, too old, or too broken. You are precisely who God needed, exactly when He needed you, positioned perfectly for the assignment that has your name written all over it. Remember this truth. Every rejection that stung, every door that slammed shut, every person who walked away, they weren't roadblocks. They were redirections. God was clearing the path, removing the distractions, and preparing you for something so much greater than what you thought you wanted. Remember that your survival story isn't just about you. It's a blueprint for someone else who's drowning in the same waters you once navigated. Your breakthrough isn't just for your benefit, it's for the person watching this right now who needed to see that if God brought you through, He'll bring them through too. And here's what I need you to understand deeply. You are not walking this path alone. God hasn't brought you this far to leave you stranded. He's still moving, still working, still orchestrating circumstances behind the scenes. Even when you can't see His hand, trust His heart. Even when you can't trace His steps, trust His character. There's a community of chosen ones, just like you, people who felt the same stirring, heard the same call, carried the same fire. We're praying with you, believing with you, standing with you. You're not isolated in your calling. You're part of a spiritual family that spans the globe. So let me ask you this final question. What will you do with what you've received today? Will you let this moment fade into memory, or will you let it ignite a movement in your life? Will you go back to playing small, or will you finally step into the largeness of who God created you to be? Before you leave this sacred space, I want to pray over you, not as a stranger speaking through a screen, but as someone who believes in the greatness God placed inside you. So, if you can, close your eyes. If you can't, just let your heart be still. Heavenly Father, I place my hand on the shoulder of every person who stayed until the end of this message. I feel their weariness, their hope, their fear, and their faith all mixed together. Lord, you see them completely, not just who they are today, but who they're becoming. Father, bless them with supernatural strength for the journey ahead. When their legs feel weak, be their foundation. When their vision gets cloudy, be their clarity. When their faith wavers, be their anchor. You are the God who makes ways where there are no ways, who brings light into the darkest places, who breathes life into dead dreams. I pray for divine connections to surround them, people who will see their value, celebrate their gifts, and walk alongside them in this next season. Remove the voices that diminish them and amplify the voices that call forth their greatness. Open doors that no man can shut. Provide resources beyond their imagination. Give them favor with people in high places and low places. Let opportunities chase them down instead of them chasing opportunities. Heal every wound that still aches. Restore every relationship that can be saved. Release them from every chain that still binds. Set them free to soar at the altitude you always intended. And Lord, when the enemy whispers that they've missed their moment, let your voice thunder